Hi everyone, in this video we're going to talk about the chapter 7, consumers, producers and the efficiency of markets. This is a book of Gregory Mankiw, Principle of Economics. This chapter basically introduced the term of welfare economics, which is basically the study of how the allocation of resources affects economic well-being. So the equilibrium of supply and demand in a market maximizes the total benefits received by buyers and sellers. So basically the welfare economics is try to measure which is the level of the well-being for the both sides. One part producers and the other part buyers. So to start to analyze about the welfare in the market, we will go over consumer surplus and willingness to pay. So, for example, I'm going to explain this term through an example which is in the book. We are talking about the Elvis Presley album, and there are four people that they would like to buy one album of Elvis Presley. They have different prices, which is like willingness to pay, different like amounts that they will pay for an album. So here we see John, which the willingness to pay is 100, and for Paul 80, and so on and so forth. So here we see, what does it mean? It means that if the price, for example for Ringo, if the price of the market is 60, Ringo will not pay for this album because his willingness to pay is lower than the price of the market. So the willingness to pay, we can define it as the maximum amount that a buyer will pay for a good. So we have the consumer surplus, which is a buyer's willingness to pay minus the amount the buyer actually pays. So for example, let's say that the price is 40. So Ringo, the willingness to pay is 50, but due to the market price is 40, the consumer surplus for Ringo, it could be, or it should be 10. So this is like kinda safe. It's something that you were like willing to pay, but and at the end of the day you don't have to pay this amount, you have to pay lower. This is the consumer surplus, which is a measure of welfare. So in this case, as was saying, imagine the price of 80 then John will have a benefit of 20, as we say here. So if the price is 80, John will pay for the album 80 because this is the price of the market, but at the same time he will have a surplus of 20. Using the demand curve to measure consumer surplus. So here we have like summarized the information in the previous table. Imagine that the price is higher than 100. It means that none of the buyers will buy or will get this good because it's higher than the willingness to pay. So the quantity demanded at this time is just 0. Next, the price, when the price is between 80 and 100, is going to be just 1 that will pay for this because the willingness to pay, remember, was 100. So he will pay. So it will be one quantity of demand for the part of John. Remember that we are talking here that just one, they're going to be satisfied with one album. They are not going to buy more. Just one is enough. So, and we can continue until the price is 50 or less, where all of them, they will buy the album. They will buy the album. So John, Paul, George, and Ringo, they will buy, and the quantity demanded will be 40. So if you see, there is a law of demand here. When the price is higher, the quantity demand is lower. So we can represent here a demand curve for these four guys. So the first thing is about 100. If you see here this line, white, means that when the price is more than 100, the quantity of albums will be 0. When the price is 80, this is the John willingness to pay 100, and when it's 80, there's going to be 1 demanded, okay, which is the John. Now here there's going to be 2 albums where the price is from 70 to 80. So this is, remember that when 80 is Paul's willingness to pay, and here we have when is between, in this case, 50 and 70, there is going to be 3 quantity demand, okay, and for 4 quantity demand is going to be when the price is from 0 to 50 or 50 or less. So this, each point represents the willingness to pay for each of the guys. Now we can say that again we have the demand curve, which is given by the table before, and now imagine the price is 80. So it's going to be the price 80. So what does it mean? It means that John, the consumer surplus, is going to be above this. It's going to be like the save, okay? Because he was like able to pay even 100, but instead of paying 100, he will pay just 80. So it's going to be a consumer surplus of 20. Now imagine the case where the price is even lower. So the price is going to be 70. So in this case, we have the blue part. It's going to be the John's consumer surplus, because as I said before, he was able to pay even 100 for buying 1 album, but instead of that, the price is 70. So he will get 40. In this case, it's going to be 30. Sorry, 30 of consumer surplus. In the other case, it's going to be the Paul's consumer surplus, which is going to be 10. He was like able to pay 80, but instead of 80 he will pay 70. So the consumer surplus is 10. Sorry, it's going to be 10, and it's going to be 30. So in this case, 30 plus 10 is going to be 40. So 40 is the consumer surplus. So we will see as the price goes down, the consumer surplus goes up. Okay? How a lower price raises consumer surplus. So basically, we have the normal downward slope demand curve, which is given, suppose the price is P and quantity is Q. So all above the curve is going to be like the safe for the consumers, the buyers. So they are known as the consumer surplus. So this is the consumer surplus. So where the price goes down, the consumer surplus goes up in this case. Yeah, okay. Now we go to the producer side. We have the producer surplus. So which is the cost and the willingness to sell. So the cost is the lowest price she would accept for her work. Cost is a willingness to sell her services. Okay, so this is a willingness to sell. If you are going to offer any service, but the price that they are going to offer to you is less than the cost that you have to face, in this case there's going to be the case where the cost is higher than the price, the salary or the payment is higher than the cost. Okay, so you're not going to offer this product. So here we have analogous case, but we are now analyzing the part of the seller. So here we have the seller, and we see here where is a positively relation with the price and the quantities offered, because there is a low supply. So the low supply basically says when the price goes up, you are more willing to offer the service. You have more profits. So in this case is Mari, where she had like the higher price for offering the painting services, 900, and we goes down until grandma. She will just like, if for example for grandma, if they hire her, they will pay for example 600. It would be perfect for grandma. She will have a producer surplus of 100. So that's basically the idea is basically the same as the consumer side. Using the supply curve to measure producer surplus. So here we have the intervals of price. When the price is higher than 900, everyone will sell. So it's going to be quantity offered here, sorry, or supplied. Quantity supplied is going to be 4. And when the price goes down automatically, the in this case not the buyers, in this case producers, they are more like they are willing to offer his service. So in this case, we see when the price is less than 500, none of the workers will offer. Why? Because the willingness to sell or the cost is higher than what they are going to receive. Okay? So here we can represent as the same way we did for the consumer surplus. So here we have when the price is from 0 to 500, no one is going to work. So it's going to be quantity of houses painted is going to be 0. So there's not going to be any production. When we have instead the quantities of 1, when the price is from 500 to 600, going to be 2 from 600 to 800, going to be 3 from 800 to 900, and it's going to be 4 quantities when the price is higher than 900. So we see here how we just like put the supply curve. Okay, and here we can show the willingness to pay. This is the willingness to pay for grandma, willingness to sell, which is the same thing as cost, grandma cost, Georgia's cost, Frida's cost, and Marie's cost. Okay, so here we have this. Now we can use the supply curve to measure producer surplus. So here we have the same, the supply curve, but we already did it here. And imagine that the price is 600. So they say, okay, I'm going to offer in the market 600 pounds or dollars for one house painted. So just is going to be this case the grandma producer surplus, because she can paint a house for 500, but if they offer them 600, she will have a surplus of 100. In the other side, imagine that now the price is not anymore 600, but it's going to be 800. So here we have again the grandma's producer surplus, which increased because of the higher price that they give, and now we have another producer surplus, which is given by Georgia. Remember that Georgia is able to offer her work a price of in this case a price of 800, but she is going to receive just 600. So I mean the willingness to pay in this case is 600. The willingness to sell which is the cost is 600, but she will receive 800. So she will have a producer surplus of 800 minus 600. So it's going to be George's producer surplus. So we see here when the price is higher, there's going to be more people, more producers that they will offer their goods. So in this case, the consumer surplus will be higher. How higher price raises producer surplus? So it's going to be the same. We have here the upward slope of supply, and imagine that we have a price and quantities 1. So which is going to be the surplus, the producer surplus in this graph? This is going to be this blue triangle. Why? Because all these producers that they are located across this curve. For example, if we think about one here, actually for this price she or he will offer his service, but given that she will receive more, this area is going to be the consumer surplus, because it was something that is more that she or he expected. This is producer surplus. So now we are going to talk a little bit about market efficiency, and we are going to talk about one figure so important for economics. This is called the benevolent social planner. This is a hypothetical character which has some features that are so powerful. So these characteristics are all-knowing, which means that he knows all information, all-powerful, he can just manage and allocate the resources, and well-intentioned dictator. What is a well-intentioned dictator? It's basically that he, the benevolent social planner, will try to maximize the surplus in the economy. So this is like the basic idea. He will try to everybody get better off in some way. So we know that the consumer surplus is defined by the value to buyers that they are willingness to pay minus the fact amount paid for by buyers. So every time the amount paid by buyers is lower than the value to buyers, we have we have a positive consumer surplus. In the case of producer surplus, we have that is going to be the amount paid by buyers minus the cost to sellers. So every time that the amount paid by the buyers is higher than the cost to the sellers, there's going to be a positive, and to be a positive producer surplus. So at the end, we need to clarify that the total surplus in the economy is the producer surplus plus the consumer surplus. So just replacing the producer surplus is equal to this one. So I just put it here. And the other part, consumer surplus, which is this one, is going to be this. So if you see this positive, this is negative, so I cancel out, and I just put this positive in the first and this in the second. We have the value to buyers and the cost to sellers. So this is the total surplus. So we know that there is a duality, which is between efficiency and equity. So if it's possible for this benevolent social planner, he will try to focus on equity and efficiency. And remember that if an allocation of resources maximizes total surplus, we say that the allocation exhibits efficiency. Equity, it means the fairness of the distribution of well-being among the members of society. So it's always a duality. So we have here the valuation, the market equilibrium. So we have here the price, quantity, supply, and demand. So I'm just going to show the total surplus in the economy, which is divided by the first, which is the consumer surplus, and the producer surplus. So these sum between blue and green, between consumer surplus and producer surplus, is the total surplus in the economy. Okay, so the most important facts of this is that free markets allocate the supply of goods to the buyers who value them most highly, as measured by the willingness to pay. So remember that this part they are just participating, this part and this, because this one they are not going to offer more because of the price, and they are not going to demand more because of the price, which is higher. So this is like the common point where the two forces, supply and demand, they just like face one like each other. So the other important fact is that free markets allocate the demand for goods to the seller who can produce them at less cost. So here they can produce less cost than this part, and this part they can pay more for the good than this part. So they try to maximize this part. So I hope it has worth. I hope you have great success with with economics, and that's it. See you the next video. Bye bye. Thank you.